Yo, what's up, people? I'm your host, Jay Will, and I would like to welcome you to Inspire God's People, where we balance faith and business to guide you to your purpose. This is episode 234, Developed in the Dark. There was a subtopic, I would just say, how to be, how to become, then be. We're going to talk about growth today. We're going to talk about self-development and, the best ways to grow, especially as a believer. With everything going on in the world today, there's a lot of push and pull to be seen and to be liked. And like, let me show you everything that I do all day long. Let me show you me tying my shoes and me eating a sandwich. And look, I'm not trying to take a shot at everybody. We all do it to some, capacity or some level. But today is about, you know what I'm saying, taking a step back and just really thinking like, am I operating and walking this walk the way that God would want me to do? And am I becoming too consumed with what people think and what people say and what people like, so on and so forth? So that's episode 234. We're going to talk about the market. We're going to, at the very, very end, I'm going to talk a little bit about tariffs and stuff like that and some of the things that's kind of going on today. But let me give y'all 60 seconds of like, where you been at? You know what I'm saying? What I've been up to, what I've been doing for y'all who care. That's why I'm going to keep it at 60 seconds because you probably don't. I've been being normal, human, working. I think I've only done about 4 or 5 podcasts this year, which is not ideal per se. But, a long time ago, I just accepted that I'm human and that I don't have everything figured out perfectly and I can't do 100 things at once. I like to be focused. So there was some other things going on this year, some in personal life, some in business, some in my creative life. And yeah, I just, literally you just have to be like, I can't do everything. So I've been living life, ups, downs, in betweens. I'm a normal person. And I try my best to remain normal. Not that it's hard because I'm just normal. What I've been doing though, did some traveling, got some business travel coming up. It's going to be a busy summer. Got a lot of trips, spent some time in Vegas for work. Also, for play, I guess, like went to some shows and things like that. Brought my wife on that business trip. So that's pretty cool when you could do that. And I finished a new album. So for anybody out there who enjoys my music, you know what I'm saying? I got a new album that's going to be dropping this summer. And this is where I've been putting a lot of my creative energy. It took me about 15 months to finish recording it, which is the longest I've ever taken in my life to record a project. I am extremely proud of what we have. There's still some tweaks and things happening from an engineering standpoint, mixing, mastering on all that. But we start shooting some stuff next week. It's going to be a lot of content that comes out behind this music, and you'll see why I've been taking a little bit of a break from the podcast. But hopefully this is the beginning of me being back. So let's jump into today's topic, developed in the dark. What's the first thing I want to say? Let me think about it. Try to say it nice. Stop trying to be seen while you grow. Now, I get it. We all, like I said, are living in this world today where we're trying to be seen and trying to be liked. But the problem for a lot of us is we're trying to be seen while we grow. Now, if you think about a seed that you plant in the ground, when you plant it in the ground, you can't see what's happening down there. But it's a lot of stuff happening. It's a lot of good stuff happening. What do? You water it. Now, I don't know if you ever, I've planted some seeds before. I did this little project when I was, this is years ago now, but when I was coming out of college, I had this little plant and it was like, God, was leading me to plant this seed so I could understand growth. And like the idea was like, as you nurture this and water this and give it sunlight, as it grows, you grow. And that was a little experiment that the Lord had me on some years ago. And through that process and just living in life, of course, you realize when you watering it, ain't nothing happening. So imagine God tells you to plant a seed and you go take a seed, you go plant it in the ground. He like, all right, water the seed. You like, woo, okay. We're going to water it. You're like, all right, cool. Now let me do my thing. Let me shine my light on it. But like God, it's still in the ground though. Excuse me. It's still in the ground. Yeah, but let me do my thing. Let me hit some sunlight with it. And then you know what I want you to do? I want you to come back tomorrow and do the same thing. So you're watering this seed over and over again, allowing it to see sunlight, and it takes a while before you see a little bitty leaf or something begin to come through the dirt, through the ground, and begin to grow. Now, here's the reality of it is that it ain't begin to grow at that point. That's just the point that you started being able to see the growth. So, what's my point? My point is growth takes place in the dark many times. I'm not saying you can't grow in the light. I'm not saying that God can't, if you have an audience that, hey, I know some of us, we like to think God want everybody to see it, miracles, signs, and wonders for the world to see. And look, that's cool. That's a part of it. He might decide to show people some things, but I truly believe that, we are a little off track as it relates to growing in general in this world today because of our phones, because of these cameras, and because of the need and desire to be seen all the time. It's like, well, how are you gonna grow if I don't ever get you into a place where I could shine my sunlight on you? That's God talking. Like if I don't ever have you in a place where I have your undivided attention and it's no one else talking, there's no other scrolling, no other voices in your head but mine, me and my word and what I'm surrounding you with, how can I ever shine my light on you so you can grow? Some of us can't even remain still long enough for God to shine on us. So I believe we got to think about not trying to be seen as much. And I understand that's a challenge. Because I've heard a lot of people admit that it's a challenge. It's been a challenge for me. And just in the temptation of this world, there's media, social media, there's cameras everywhere. There's family members with cameras. Like you could really barely do anything or go anywhere of value when somebody isn't deciding to tape it. And that can be a challenge at times for all of us. We could just start to give in to that. But I'm not saying that's all wrong. Don't take what I'm saying the wrong way. But I just think we've gone too far where we don't have any privacy. We're not, keeping anything for the experience of the people that we're with. Like, it's like, yo, you're with me, we chilling together, but the whole time we together, it's about showing people that we together or taking a picture or pulling out a camera to prove to these people we having a good time. There are times in life I'm genuinely looking back now and I'm like, are these people having fun? Or they're just like enjoying looking like they have fun so that they can show that they're having fun to people later on Instagram and Facebook and stuff. And again, I'm not knocking everybody. Like, try to take what I'm saying with some level of balance of just saying, yo, I think we need to take a step back and kind of observe and examine ourselves and ask ourselves, like, bro, am I going too far? Am I becoming too consumed with what people think of me? Am I becoming too consumed with what I think of other people? And I think it's something that, again, in this world today, as more and more resources and cameras and things are around us, some of us don't know how to balance that out because these algorithms have us enslaved. And the way these algorithms work is like it penalizes you for not showing up every day. So a lot of us feel like, yo, I have to show up every day because I gotta beat the algorithm. And I get it, especially if you work in this field and it's like, yo, I'm a creator and I'm trying to get, this page monetized and things like that. And even that, I think, is a good way to look at the fact that like our attention is monetized now. So like they're paying you to keep people glued to the screen. That alone should let you know, like, just like how crazy the world we live in is like, yo, like one of the most valuable things in the world today is your attention. And so if your attention is valuable to YouTube and valuable to Instagram and Facebook to the point that they will pay people to keep your attention, and keep in mind, they're keeping most of the money. It's not like, even the people who are making good money, these companies are making more. And I'm not mad at them for that. But what I'm trying to say is like, if your attention is that valuable that people will pay for it, imagine how valuable your attention is to God. Like some of us are trying so hard to be monetized on social media that we are not even giving God that level of time and attention so that, we could be quote unquote monetized spiritually. You get what I'm saying? So that we can grow spiritually. And that's what it's all about. It ain't about judging people. It's not about looking down on people, because I'm just as guilty as you. I'm navigating the same world you're navigating, the same phone upgrades and apps. And hey, I want to make music and I want to do podcasts and I want people to be able to listen to it and follow it and connect with it and all those things. But every now and then, you got to take a moment to be like, yeah, but to what extent? Like, I might have to chill a little bit, you know what I'm saying, for a season so that I can hear from God and grow. And let's just be real. Some of us sharing our half-baked cookies. And what I mean by that is, like, it ain't even done cooking yet. You so busy trying to show people what God got in the oven that it's like, bro, let me cook. Let God cook. You showing half-baked cookies to everybody. You're underdeveloped. There are people that are online, trying to sell stuff, and you ain't even learned how to sell it yet. You ain't even became an expert on it. You haven't even had no success in this area, and you trying to sell other people on it. And again, I'm not trying to knock nobody's hustle. I'm just trying to balance it out. You feel me? And look, lastly on that, good things take time, bruh. Man, I think one of the things I don't enjoy about the fast pace of social media and life today, even the way we watch videos, just like every 5 seconds, you just going. It's like, bruh, like you didn't even watch the last video, and we just share videos all day. And don't get me wrong, again, I'm guilty of that too. I'm just as guilty. I share a lot of videos with people too, funny stuff, all of that. But what I'm saying is, there's a problem in our society where we're so sped up, our attention is so all over the place that we can't even let good things happen, because good things take time. And so we have this mentality that I believe that's why people are crashing out. I believe that's why part of why people are just emotionally all over the place. People just, right now it's just almost like you get extra points in life for losing your mind, crashing out, cussing somebody out. All of the clips and things you see online. Oh, this person told them. It's like, bruh, like, slow down. Just slow down and chill. Let God cook. Let these good things happen. Enjoy your life. Be patient. But we get sped up in life because everybody doing something, and you got to compare yourself to everybody, right? You got to compare yourself to your entire timeline. And it's like, we'll never be enough if we do that. We can't even recognize what God is doing in our own lives, but because we too busy consumed with our timeline. And again, I'm not judging you no more than I'm judging myself. I'm just saying I do think we need to balance it out. Maybe it's something we need to pray about and seek the Lord about, because I do believe at the end of the day that God wants our attention. And I don't know that we're giving him enough attention when the world is paying for our attention. The world has monetized our attention, and they'll do anything to keep it. You can sit on your phone easily for 2 hours just looking at 15-second videos, but almost can't spend 15 seconds reading a word. And that is a problem when we get to that point where it's so easy to give the world and all these stupid things our attention, but we can't put aside a little bit of time for God, a little bit of time to learn, a little bit of time to be productive so that we could be productive human beings in society, productive human beings in the church, in the faith. Like, what are we adding to the kingdom of God? Some of us have just allowed ourselves to just become, consumed by entertainment, consumed by everything that's happening in the world. And that's, again, me included, all of us. I think we got to be in a place where we like, no, God, I'm gonna chill sometimes on this stuff. I'm gonna allow myself to go into a dark place, not a dark place meaning a bad place, a dark place meaning a quiet place with no distractions, so I could hear from God, so that God could shine his light on me, so that the only light being shined on me is from him, not from the light from my phone. And so at the end of the day, we just need to get into a place where God could work on us. And then, like, when the Bible say, let patience have her perfect work, that word, like, perfect is connected to complete. And like I said, instead of us showing half-baked cookies to the world, we allow the cookies to become fully baked, fully cooked. We allow God to finish the meal. And then that's when we can go forth and do the things that he's called us to do. And however he wants to use you, that's up to him, not up to me. But my point is, like, some of us are so busy stepping out early. It's like, if you just would have waited, like he was trying to like finish the food. Like you ain't even let him finish. You done took it out there and it's half baked. You feel what I'm saying? So ultimately, my point is like sometimes we got to slow down, be quiet, and listen to God. Excuse me. Now, what I want to say next is, I made this post on Facebook, I think the other day, and it's just about this short-sightedness. Now, a lot of this is connected. What I was saying was that short-sighted people don't make good leaders because leaders need to be visionaries. They need to be able to see ahead. One of the things, again, the common threads that I see today is it starts with them monetizing your attention, right? So that means they own your attention, and they have a lot of it. So if I have your attention, 5 hours a day on your phone, regardless of what social media app you're on, I'm on, we all on them. So if I got your attention for 5 hours a day, all right, cool. That's part one. I got your attention. Well, what's the second part? Well, if you're a short-sighted person, that means I can throw so much stuff at you through this phone, through this app, you won't even be able to handle it every day. Sometimes we wake up in the morning, everybody, you know what happened? You see what happens? Something happens every day online because it's so much information. It crosses the whole globe. Anything that happens anywhere can go viral on any given day. And then a person really can't mentally process all of those things and make good decisions in real time sometimes. So what do people do? They're short-sighted. We saw it with the tariffs. We see it with politics. Like I see people literally respond to headlines as if the headlines are the real story. And again, these media outlets, they understand we want your attention. So sometimes the headline, whether it's a YouTube video or a magazine article online or whatever it is, it's like they are going to title that thing perfectly to get your attention. Sometimes it's going to be clickbait. It's going to be a little crazy, but that's why you wanted to see it. Then you read it and realize it wasn't even all that. Or some of us, even worse, don't even read it because we're short-sighted. Now, I think being short-sighted is a problem because, look, man, if I know that in the world every day I could wake up on any given day and depending on what's going on in the world, it's going to be articles and drama thrown at me all day, every day. Today, that's tariffs, right? 3 months ago, it was not 3 months, a little more than 3 months ago, it was the election. Then it was that, Trump won, and that was an issue. And everything is just an issue. And I spent maybe 5 minutes watching a video on CNN today. And I was like, man, it was a panel of like 5 people. One person to me was saying something that from a logical or educated perspective made sense. The other 4 people were just trying to scare people to me. And I literally was listening to them like, I think they know better, but they also know they can't always tell the truth because the truth doesn't get your attention or the truth doesn't control you. And so there's a lot of deceitfulness in the media and how they work. And they are playing on the fact that you're short-sighted. You're all over the place. You're not even composed. All it takes is one headline and you screenshotting it and sending it to people and you don't even understand the context of what the story is even about. And that's, again, something that I've seen it in politics. I see it now with tariffs because I'm seeing people, I'm like, I know you don't understand tariffs, bro. You don't even understand credit scores. And credit scores been around forever. You don't even understand how to get a loan. Again, I'm just speaking in general. I ain't talking about nobody in particular. But what I'm saying is like, as a society, it's kind of crazy when I think, I'm like, yo, all of y'all, all of us are experts on global macroeconomic negotiations. Like you're an expert? Or did you just read a headline about this topic and react to it? Again, short-sighted people, the reason I'm calling this out is because if we allow ourselves to be controlled in that way, then you just going to be a slave to whoever owns your attention in a particular moment. Regardless of the political party, affiliation, media network, whatever, if you're not able to first have to learn things for yourself, have educated perspectives, educated opinions, education a lot of time calms you down, believe it or not. When you actually educate yourself on what's going on in the world, you have a more calm approach. Again, remember the people on the news media, their job is to get and keep your attention and get you riled up and get you mad. They want us arguing. It's like I'm watching people argue about stuff and I'm like, why y'all arguing about that? I've been seeing people this week argue about whether or not in investing to buy the dip. Now, if you're not an investor, buy the dip just means I'm going to buy something when the price goes down. Now, we're going to look at some investment charts in a minute. I understand both sides. There are some people that's out there and they feel like, hey, you're always saying buying a dip, but have you made any money? Like, and it can feel like, especially if you're not an investor for real. And when I say investor, I mean long-term investor, multi-year, like consistently you invest. And there's different levels to being involved in that, but just that's how I'm generally looking at it. Like, let's just say 3 years. If you've been investing consistently for 3 years, to me, you're an investor. That means a lot of things can happen in 3 years. There's going to be a lot of dips to buy. What it can sound like to people on the outside who are not investors is like, yo, you always telling me to buy something. The whole world messed up. They tariffs and all this stuff, and you want me to buy it. And so they can't hear that, right? And I'm watching people argue about that versus reason through it. Like, hey, you don't have to buy the dip. You're not an investor. You don't want to be an investor. But for those people who are investors, when a lot of times what happens is bad things happen in the world. Things like COVID was one of them that caused the market to crash. And then literally shortly after that, it just went crazy. The housing crash in 2008, and that took, I believe, longer to recover. COVID was a quicker recovery. But my point is overall is like, yo, like, if you're educated on these things, you don't even debate the same. Like educated people who are educated on topics, again, I ain't talking about these people who come on TV and try to put on because they're trying to rile up their audience. I'm just saying if you get two educated people in the room talking about tariffs and they both are they know what they're talking about, you're going to hear people reason with each other. They're not going to holler at each other. And then you're going to get to decide as the listener, okay, well, what side do I agree with? Because I don't want to agree or disagree just because I hate the person that's leading the way. I want to understand it first, right? Like, because otherwise, then people could use that hatred to control you. So imagine you hate somebody so much, all somebody has to do is mention their name, and they know they can get you emotionally riled up. I don't even know how that's Christ-like or whatever, unless we talking about like the devil, and I don't even know. We don't even want him to have that level of control over us. But it's like, yo, if they know they could do that, then they will do that because they'll be like, hey, watch this. All you got to do is say his name and they're going to go crazy. Now, I'm not telling you who to like or not, who not to like. That's up to you. But I respect people more when their dislike is rooted in education versus emotion, because emotions don't really deal in fact at all. What's my point in all of this? Short-sighted people see the things happening in the world and they're always panicking. And if you notice, the same people that panicked about this, panicked about the issue 3 months ago, panicked about the issues 3 years ago, those people aren't leaders to me. At least not a leader I would follow. I don't follow that tone. Whenever I hear people panicky and complaining, I'm like, I'm good on it. I'm good. Because to me, that's not even how educated people typically talk. Now, concerned, yeah. Disagreeable, great. Panicking, that's not the characteristic of a leader. And so I'm just urging us to say, like, we need to be a little more long term with our thinking, not as short sighted with our thinking, because then we'll put ourselves in position to be controlled. Don't overreact to everything. Don't be driven by fear or euphoria. That's the thing about short-sighted people. They're driven by fear, so if something bad happens, they just overreact. But on the other end, they also overreact to good things. You can overreact to good things to put yourself in a bad position. Start feeling yourself a little too much. Had a good day, acting like you had a good year. It's like, no, bro, sit back and chill. Chill, slow down. All right. Oh yeah, I'll say this about these type of people. They'll be right today and wrong every other day. The thing about short-sighted people, the reason that they're like that, and the reason it's tempting to be like that is because you're just reacting to the moment. So it's easy to be right when the only moment you're considering is right now. But a good leader is able to say, okay, I know today looks bad, but tomorrow the sun comes out. Tomorrow, you wake up, Lord willing, and you get another chance. Like, but people who just make everything sound like the end, it's just overreact to everything. Yeah, you right today. I've seen this a lot as an investor in cryptocurrency through the years. I'll see people like, oh, Bitcoin is a scam. It's this, or this, when it was $22,000. And then here's what's weird that happens. Okay, then it goes to 60 and they get quiet. Then it goes to 100 and they're quiet. But then it goes down to 89 or 79 and they get loud again. And it's like, well, that's weird because you were saying it was a scam at 22,000 and at 79,000, it's still more than 3 times more than when you were saying it was a scam. But right now you're right, but you're not right in the long term. And again, this is the way people argue and debate online today. It's also why like I lose patience and have no interest in a lot of that stuff cuz like I prefer more detailed, nuanced conversation and dialogue around about things versus just like wanting to pop off in some comments just to be right. That's what a lot of people do. And it's also like, man, like, do you really have the credibility to talk about what you're talking about, or are you just driven by your emotions? That's something for us all to think about. You feel me? All right. The next thing I want to talk about, this is a question I was asked on a panel last week at a Wake Up conference. Brittany Jones, Darrell Jones, thank you all for having me out there. It was an excellent time. I was on a great panel with some other amazing people. I thoroughly enjoyed myself, thoroughly enjoyed the perspective of the other speakers and things like that. So it's always good to get out, get in front of people, share ideas, thoughts, talk about the word of God. One of the questions I was asked was, how do you remain relevant and sold out to Christ? Now, I wasn't asked this personally, that was asked to the group. I gave an answer on this particular one. I thought this was a great question because I think it was coming from a real place. And just like a lot of the things I've been kicking about today, it's like real things that people really deal with. You know what I mean? Like we really deal with these things of like, how do I remain relevant and also sold out to Christ? And really the root of the question was, a lot of it was focused on online is like, yo, I have this business, or let's take me, I have this podcast, I have music. How do I remain relevant with those things yet sold out to Christ? And I think the heart of the question really speaks to the fact that in some ways, in order to be relevant from a worldly standard, it will cause you to do things that don't align with your Christianity. Now, I think that's something as believers we already all got to think about. And I'm going to share with you the way I answered this question and the way I think about it. My thing was authenticity. Like, I believe in being authentic. I believe in striving to be authentic. Does it mean like I'm the most authentic person in the world? Or no, it doesn't. It doesn't mean that. You know, I've done a Zoom call with a polo shirt and hoop shorts on before. You know what I'm saying? I've fronted a little bit in life. I get it. We all don't, yeah, everybody don't know all our business, all our flaws. We all have insecurities and things like that. I know. When I talk about being authentic, here's what I mean at the end of the day. Let me just try to give a real, it's still hypothetical, but it's more real to me example. You know, I have this podcast. When I started this podcast, podcasts were not as popular as they are now, right? Because I've been doing this for a few years. Now, as podcasts have grown and as the world has changed, the desire for content has changed. And podcasts have really just become, you know, audio, video versions of viral posts and content. So what somebody would have tweeted 8 years ago, they say the spicy content in a podcast today, and that goes viral. And there's like this desire to say something crazy because, again, like I told you, your attention is monetized. People don't give their attention really to like even kill reasonable things. People like to give their attention to polarizing things, right? So that means I'm on some extreme. That's why if you look at like really, really like extreme or far left podcasts, they get a lot of views. Far right podcasts get a lot of views. Things that are just like takes that are just crazy or extreme, they get a lot of people's attention because they're super shareable, right? Now, if somebody's definition of relevance is based on the number of views you get, then I really wouldn't be that relevant, right? But the way I see it is that's not my calculation or my formula for how I view relevance. I view relevance more as how much am I growing and living in this life, having success being me, not how many people are seeing my success. And that's maybe a big difference between like how I feel like the world wants to push me to be versus just how I am. Like I'm a person that cares more about being successful than you seeing me be successful. Because I feel that if I focus more on being, then it doesn't matter what you see. But if I focus more on trying to look successful for you, eventually you might find out that I'm not really successful if I haven't really built any real success. But because of the desire to be liked and to go viral and be famous, and we see other people like, oh my God, the streamers are the celebrities now. So people want to be celebrities. So they feel like if you're not doing what they're doing, if you're not having that level of success, then you must not be relevant, because people's definition of relevance is just how much am I liked by other people. Now, me, I think that's a messed up way to look at it. So that's not my formula, like I said. So to me, if you ask me the question, how do I remain relevant while staying sold out to Christ? It's first like, am I authentically who I am? And within that authenticity, am I genuinely striving to be like Christ, right? Because for the second part to be true and sold out to Christ, I actually think that should be the first part. Like, being sold out to Christ has to be more of the mission and the plan and the goal than to be worldly relevant. Because in reality, in being sold out to Christ, you may have to sacrifice some level of being liked and relevancy, right? That's just part of counting up the cost before you follow the Lord. It's understanding what you're doing. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't be relevant at all, because there are relevant Christians out there, right? And, you know, if that's, as long as that's God will for their lives, then that's a good thing. The problem becomes some of us starts changing who we are to conform to what it takes to be liked. And that's where I think the problem is. I see this sometimes. I see it a lot, but I don't want to get specific, because I don't want to call out no public figure in particular, but I'll just speak generally, like as a Christian rapper, let's call it. Now, from a worldly standard, I'm not like some crazy relevant Christian rapper. You get what I'm saying? But I make the music I believe in. I make the music that I believe in a way. My mindset is, if my music was a treasure that was found in 100 years, would it edify the saints? Would it lead people to Christ? Would it speak to somebody's soul? That's how I make music. Is it authentic to what I believe in my lifestyle and who I am? That's how I make music. Like, is it something that I can personally be proud of and something I enjoy and something that I think people need to hear? That's how I make music. What I don't do is say, oh, who's the best artist in the world? Yeah, this the best artist? Great. All right, cool. I want to sound like him. Oh, what's the dopest type of track or songs everybody doing? Okay, everybody dancing, everybody doing this. All right, I want to do that. And again, I'm not trying to knock anyone. I'm just telling you, for me, that's more like I would look at myself like a clown. Like, wait, you trying to like be like somebody else? Who are you, bro? Like, who are you? Because I don't really see where in the scriptures of me being fearfully and wonderfully made, it says like, yeah, you fearfully and wonderfully made, and you're the salt of the earth and the royal priesthood and the head and not the tail and all these things as a believer. But I put a little more rap juice in his cup over there. The one that's talking about, you know, all the crazy stuff that that's against my word. Those are the people that are like really talented that you should follow. I don't believe that. As a believer, I think we give too much credit to people who are turning away from God and make it seem like what they're doing is so amazing. And like, because I'm a Christian, I can't have talent. Like, the talent just went away when I became a Christian. Like, I don't think like that. I think God gave me the gifts that he gave me. And if I use them to edify him, that's just as relevant to him. If I'm relevant to God, he will open the doors that he wants to open for me. He will close the doors that he wants to open. And sometimes doors do close. He will lead me on the path that he wants me on, not the path that I'm thirsty to be on, not the path that puts me in lights and I will consider my personal success. Like, every time I'm just, oh, I'm in lights, so that means God is glorified. What if God didn't want you in lights, and you being in lights is you running to Tarshish when he told you to go to Nineveh, or you disobeying him? And I do think, I'm just telling you to think about something. I do think some people go after fame in disobedience, because we're equating fame to godliness, equating fame to righteousness. And because everybody knows you, it must be God's will. I don't think that's how God works. I never seen in the Bible where it says everybody who's famous, I made them famous. Is that God's voice? Why would God talk like everybody who's why did I give that voice to God? That's actually the question. Okay, let's just go past that whole section because giving that voice to God is wild. Who told you, buddy? Why would God talk like that? I'm sorry, y'all. I got issues. Moving along. So we know that authenticity, being who God authentically called you to be, that's how you remain relevant as a Christian and sold out to Christ. Let me take a sip of this water before we go on. Yo. All right. Now here's one of the last topics I want to talk about today. We're talking about being developed in the dark. And part of the point of these things is these are not flashy things. These are not things that happen in public. Being developed in the dark, what? Not being famous, being authentic, that doesn't get you followers. Like what is this podcast teaching me about? Being authentic and, not being short-sighted. These are not things that happen in front of people. These are character developments that God begins to work on you on. And then as he develops you, growth is a very obvious thing. Once a tree or a plant or fruit springs forth out of the ground, like, yeah, people can see it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, to whatever extent it's God's will for them to see it, however tall the tree grows or whatever. Like, at the end of the day, once you actually grow, you don't have to do a lot of talking about it. You know what I'm saying? You ever walk through the woods or a park or something and see a bunch of trees? They there. Like, they don't have to say nothing. Like, yeah, it's trees here. That's like when you allow God to develop you and allow him to give you the growth, you could just be quiet, and when the growth happens the right way, you don't have to scream. You don't have to do weird stuff to be liked by people, like, because you're actually becoming who God called you to be. And is it really the goal that everybody has to like you? I'm not saying you should do anything to go around and be disliked. That's not the point at all. But the point is just like, yo, if I'm doing what God called me to do, if I'm trying to do what God called me to do, and I'm allowing him to develop me in the dark, then I really just can't be too consumed with what people think because they don't know. All right. Now let's change the subject to financial. Y'all know, if you listen to this show a lot, I like to talk about finances. I think it's an important topic. And also, just because this is a faith and business show, look, business is a lot about finances. And you look at a lot of the things that happen in the world today, the tariffs and things like that. These are financial, economic topics. And I'm enjoying exploring and diving into these topics and learning more about them, right? Because I don't consider myself an expert on those things. But I will say I am more of an expert on this. Poor spending habits increase stress. Now, we're going to look a little bit at this connection between poor spending and financial issues and mental issues and mental health issues. And the reason, I don't know why I was thinking about this a couple weeks ago. I asked myself a question like, is there a connection between poverty and mental health? Because, look, I grew up, I'm not even going to say how I grew up. When I was a young adult, I was broke, because that ain't about growing up is an easy way. Talking about how you grew up, that's an easy way to blame your parents or something. I ain't blaming nobody. I'm talking about me when I was of age, making decisions with money. I spent some years being financially illiterate. I spent some years making poor spending habits. And what I love about talking about poor spending habits, because if you have poor spending habits, that means you have money. And see, I'm attacking this conversation a specific way because people always like to try to grab some out the sky, like, oh, well, they poor because of this, or no. Poor spending habits means you have the money. So I'm talking to people where you touching the money. One thing I've learned about being a person who spent time with a lot of friends, family, different folks, and talking about their finances and things, one of the first things I like to do when I sit down and talk about finances with people, if it's like their personal finances or their credit or something, is like, all right, show me your situation. Let's diagnose your situation. It's like when you take your car to the shop, open up the hood. Because a lot of times people want to talk about their finances with the hood closed. Like, no, let's open up the hood. How much you make? Okay, now do me a favor. Count up your bills for the month. Okay, cool. So you got 5,000 in bills a month. Okay, that's $60,000 in bills a year. Okay, cool. How much money you make a month? Oh wow, you make 10,000 a month? Cool. Okay, great. Like what I'm saying is like there are people that are making money and they make way more than they bills, but they have poor spending habits. Now, the reason I'm calling this out is because I want to call out the mental health aspect. I hear people all talking about mental health and self-care and self-whatever. That's not really my language. I don't really kick it like that. But I'm like, okay, let me think about what they talking about and let me spin it. Because all this mental health talk, which is necessary, I'm joking a little bit, being a little facetious. But this mental health talk, we skipping this part that you play financially by stressing yourself out. Now, why? Because I know a lot of stress comes from finances because I was stressed out when I didn't have finances. A lot of sickness and things because, hey, you can't go to the doctor as much, or you can't get the best doctors, or man, a lot of things are tied to your finances. Now, I'm not talking about you got to be rich or you got to make a certain amount of money. We're talking about stewardship right now. How do you spend the money you have? Because it's one thing not to have it, right? But it's a whole nother thing to have. Like I tell people all the time, I'm not talking about nobody in particular. If you and my family, you've heard me say this. I don't want you to think I'm talking about you because I say this to everybody. You can't have, like, you can, but you shouldn't act on it. But the problem with people is they have BMW taste with a Honda bank account. Like you got I can talk, people. Where my cup at? I can talk. You got BMW taste, but you got a Honda budget. But you still go and get the BMW. And that's the problem. The problem is people are driven by what they want, not what they can afford. Now, how do I know this? Because I've sat down and I've done these exercises with quite a few people, right? And I'm always trying to convince people that if you make these little tweaks, like I get it, you always wanted a Benz, or some people say they deserve this. Like, okay, great, you deserve a Benz, cool, but you can only afford a Toyota. So how do you want to deal with this? And what I watch so many people do is sacrifice everything to get the car or something that they want, that if we really dig into it, it's really just about proving and showing to other people. Now, that's what we talked about developed in the dark. Because when you start having a mindset to be developed in the dark, you shift from being this person that makes all your decisions based on what other people think or what they like or what they said about you or trying to prove that you live up to some reputation. Now, once you start developing in the dark, you throw all of that out the window and you say, look, y'all can think of me what y'all want. I'm going to get this Honda or this Toyota because I can afford that. And then if I get that, I can afford to pay these bills better. Then I can pay those bills better. I can afford to even save a couple dollars, maybe even invest a couple dollars. Maybe I can even afford to go on a trip or two. And then what happens is I start living a more full life, right? Just by making some financial decisions a little better. And then I start relieving the stress that I felt trying to pay for the Benz that I couldn't afford with my Honda money, and then driving around in the Benz and feeling like, oh my God, do they like me now? Like the stress of needing validation for people, you start giving all of that up, start making some good financial decisions, saying, forget, let them think whatever they want to think, because I'm going to be who God called me to be. I'm going to be wealthy. I'm going to be those things. And let me tell you, when you start being something, it don't matter what people think you are. You are you. I tell people all the time, if we just focus on developing ourselves and becoming and being something, it's like, who cares what they think? Let me just say it this way. Let's say you do, I really don't want to use nothing materialistic, but we're going to do it because we're talking about money. Let's say you get the Benz, like the Benz you always wanted, and you never post a picture. Like you never have to tell people. Now, let's say the people saw your Honda or your Toyota and they think, yeah, that's what they still driving. It doesn't matter what they think if the Benz is in the garage. The problem with us is I'm like, we live in a weird way where we actually put more value in what people think, meaning You can have something good and won't even be satisfied until you show people. But you got it though. That's weird. Like you actually have it, but you want to show people, and that's the only thing that makes you feel complete. We got to develop in the dark, people. Now, I want to just share real quick this article. I'm not going to read the whole article by any means. But I do want to look through this article. This was on February 28th of 2024 by TIAA Institute. This is a report that finds ties between financial stress and mental health. Now, the goal here is just to bring more of an awareness that this is a thing, and for you to think about like, how do I start really taking this serious, because my finances and my spending habits could be causing stress. So let's skim through this a little bit and see what they're talking about. We're going to skip some of the beginning stuff. TIAA is a leading provider of secure retirements and outcome-focused investment solutions. So that's kind of their play on this. But let's see what they say. They understand the importance of achieving financial security and the long-term implications for those who are unable to save for the future. According to this report, more than 40% of Americans are at risk of running out of retirement savings, making achieving and maintaining financial security at every stage of life important now more than ever. 40% of people don't have the money they need to last through retirement. That means you don't have enough money just to manage your life, okay? That's very dangerous. Let's see. According to TIAA Institute researchers, financial struggles, such as worrying about debt, financial instability, or the inability to meet basic needs can trigger stress or reduce resilience against mental health challenges. They also say high amounts of debt are often associated with anxiety, depression, and anger, while persistent financial difficulties may contribute to feelings of hopelessness and despair, potentially leading to depression. All right, here's a couple more things. The pandemic has heightened awareness in the prevalence of mental health challenges, with rates of poor mental health rising. Organizations should, they're just telling you what jobs should do. Last thing here. According to the report, 42% of U.S. adults say that money negatively impacts their mental health, and financial stress has resulted in a 34% increase in absenteeism and tardiness. Wow. Employees who are financially stressed are 5 times more likely to be distracted by finances while at work. Financially stressed employees also miss about twice as many days each year compared to their unstressed counterparts. All right. There was a lot in that report, but I want to highlight a couple things. First thing is that 40% of Americans don't have enough money to last through their retirement. That's dangerous. And part of, I think, that is because we spend our working years spending so much money and only thinking about today. Even when I talk to people and they talk about what they can afford or how much money they have or whatever, it's based on like, all right, I got this much money, I could pay this, I could do this. None of it is based on like, all right, well, just from a macro standpoint, looking at your money and saying, all right, I need this amount of money to survive these years. Oh, wow. In retirement, I need this amount of money if I want to maintain a particular lifestyle or whatever. And so we think short-sighted. Notice how it's all coming into play with this short-sightedness and trying to spend money to show people stuff. You don't have any money to save. You're stressing yourself out. That is dangerous. And then another thing is that, look, financially stressed people, they feel hopeless, depressed, they're in despair. Like those are very dangerous mental health issues that we should take serious, especially if we can actually change it just by making some different financial decisions. Now, let me kind of wrap up this thought with this. I think the problem with most people, at least people that I've talked to, and I've talked to quite a few people about finances, what I sense from most people is they don't actually believe they could change their lives with financial decisions being better with their spending. Most people think, oh, I'm so broke or I'm so deep in the hole, it don't matter, or they're so comfortable in a bad situation, living check to check, being financially stressed out, that they've convinced themselves that that's the norm. Or they've convinced themselves that I can't do it. They convinced themselves that if I just made a little more money, it would be better. I tell people all the time, money doesn't solve money problems. It don't matter if you make 50,000 a year right now and you broke. If you make 75,000, you still gonna be broke, because 50,000 ain't broke. The thing ain't the money, it's your spending. And I'm telling you, if you make different spending decisions, you will put yourself in a better long-term position. But in order to do that, you have to free yourself from being a prisoner of the moment and caring so much about wearing the right thing for people to like you or think you got money, or driving the right thing for people to think you got money, or the right watch, or the right, like, we do so much unnecessary spending for other people. It's time for you to stop worrying about them and worry about your whole self. What do I mean? The you today is spending money to please these people today, but you're disregarding the you of tomorrow to do it. So it's like, forget you, forget the me in the future. You figure it out, buddy. But I'm about to get this Louis Vuitton bag so I can go to the airport and look like I got money. Well, guess what? If you can't really afford it, you don't have money. So I think sometimes we need to stop worrying about trying to convince everybody else and just like ask yourself, like, can I actually afford this? Do I actually have a savings? Do I have I thought about my retirement? How long could I go if I lost everything? If I lost my job, how much money do I have saved up? Like, a lot of us don't even think like that, and I understand why, because I've been there. So nobody could come to me telling me all the sob stories don't really go over well with me, because I'm from the same place. I had the same issues, and it ain't even about me. It's about the fact that I know that these plans work. Is that when I read books and got certain information, I tweaked behaviors and then produced results. And at the end of the day, when you do that over time, it starts to compound. So what people like to do is like look at you and think like, oh, well, you got this or you did this. It's like, no, like, I started where you started, but I started. And the problem with so many of us is we don't take action on things. So we, sit online and we argue with people about things, and we never really educate ourselves. And unfortunately, we only hurt ourselves. So when you think about your spending habits, align them with the Bible. The Bible is about denying yourself and being disciplined and not indulging in everything and doing things in moderation. How does that not apply to your finances? The Bible doesn't say, hey, take your money and go stun on everybody. And I'm not saying wealth is a problem. Wealth actually ain't the problem. The problem is you can be broke and living in sin as it relates to money. A lot of us like to only look at and think that wealthy, rich people are evil. Okay, some of them are. It's a lot of broke, evil people too. And so it's like, don't make it about the amount of money. Make it about the decisions that you make with your money. And I don't care what nobody says. If you have money, you can make better decisions with it. And if that compounds over time, it will produce results. But the problem with some people is they want to continue to make the bad financial decision. Just do it again and again and again, expecting different results, ignoring education. And when you do that, you're never going to get out of the cycle. I tell people around me all the time, you trapped in a cycle. And I've been trapped in a cycle. And when me and my wife were trapped in that cycle, eventually I had to say no more. Eventually I had to say, this ain't about blaming nobody else. It ain't about because I grew up in this, I'm disenfranchised. It ain't about none of that. It's about the fact that I've touched money, I've had money, I've gotten checks, and I'm not doing the right thing with them. And it starts with me. That's my perspective. Your money starts with you. You need to educate yourself, but then after you educate yourself, you need to discipline yourself. And again, when we think about biblical principle, the Bible talks about wise counsel all the time. And I'm always confused at people who don't want to take wise counsel when it relates to their money. I'm like, well, the wealthy people I know, they got financial advisors. You don't want to listen to nobody tell you what to do with your money at all. So it's like, you ain't got no money. You can't afford nothing, but you want to go blow it on things you want. At the end of the day, We have to start thinking about our needs more than our wants. We have to start thinking about putting ourselves in a long-term better position versus in the short term impressing a couple people that don't like you anyway, or even if they do like you, if they like you because you're impressing them, they probably like you for the wrong reasons. The people that love you truly, the people that like you truly are going to like you and love you regardless of whether you drive a car, don't have a car, if you have to downgrade your house, no matter what you have to do, the people who authentically and genuinely love you will love you. And so we have to stop telling ourselves that we have to do these things to be loved or liked. And it's not until we free ourselves from that and start getting a deliverance and a release of that stress of trying to make people like me, trying to make people think I'm doing, man, it don't matter. I can't be a slave to your thoughts. I have to do what God called me to do. And maybe I'm not as great as you would hope I was, or maybe I'm not as great as the next podcaster or whatever. I don't have it all figured out. I'm a human being. I'm going to live with that, but I'm going to keep striving to be who God called me to be so that when I do make it, or however I make it, doing whatever God called me to do, I can know that I was authentic to who he called me to be. And I didn't have to go and do no weird stuff for no attention and try to go to no weird parties to try to get people to like me and get some opportunities. At the end of the day, you know, I mentioned this the other day. I love how David was in the field tending as a shepherd when Samuel came and found him and anointed him to be king. That's just one instance in the Bible. But there are so many instances in the Bible where someone was just doing what God called them to do. And what we'll say is like, oh yeah, he was in the right place at the right time. Maybe, but the right place in the right time is doing what God called me to do always. That's the right place in the right time. When he was tending to the sheep, he was in the dark. Nobody even was like, he wasn't even an option when it came to Samuel. Went to his pops looking for people. They're like, I mean, excuse me, like I got this one over here. He tall, you know, he handsome, whatever. Like, oh, him out there in the dark, like he ain't doing nothing. That's the beauty of developing in the dark, because what happened is when you out there, when David is in that field tending to those sheep, he's developing a skill set that's going to be useful as a king. David ended up being a great, an elite warrior. He was an elite warrior. There was a special group of elite warriors. He was in that. And so it's like at the end of the day, I would have to believe that some of that training happened in the dark, in the field. And some of us can't get to the thing that God wants us to do because we skipping the training sessions. We skipping this part of our life that we're overlooking. And you're thinking like, but I'm trying to get here. This ain't enough. It's like, no, I'm trying to develop you in the dark. I'm trying to mold you in the dark. Let me mold you. They don't got to see you get molded. Trust me, if you let me do this, you will eventually be the king if I called you to be that. You will eventually be the entrepreneur of the year if I called you to be that. Or you might just be the greatest entrepreneur that no one ever heard of if I called you to be that. But let me mold you in the dark. Stop trying to be seen at every second of your life. Do y'all feel me or not? Like, I'm like, it's getting ridiculous the level into which we want to be seen, to where we think if we ain't seen, it ain't happen. And God, like, I blessed you. Like, what's the problem if I blessed you? Like, why are you acting like you not blessed? And it's like, because God, you ain't let me show them me getting blessed. It's like the people now that's like handing a cup to the homeless person. Hey, can you get a picture? Me handing you this cup. After the picture, you like, man, whatever. All right. See you, buddy. When you're doing things for God, everything ain't meant to be shown. And I really do think there is a connection to us trying to show everything to our lack of development. Some of us are not growing because we trying to show the growth. Now think about your growth spurts in life. I mean, I guess when growth spurts probably happen while you sleep, I would imagine. If they happen while you're awake, I ain't never seen myself grow. I was a baby before though. Like I was a baby. Now I'm a grown man. I didn't see the growth. I never saw the beard. I never watched my beard and saw one hair just start growing out. I never saw it. I never saw a gray hair just like, oh, that one's turning gray. No, you don't see growth. It just happens. And then when it happens, people be like, hey, when did you get taller, boy? You getting taller than me now. It's like, hey, I ain't see the growth. It happened in the dark, buddy. People don't have to see your growth. All right. So when it comes to finances, let's make better financial decisions. Let's read and study financial content, right? Let's actually learn. This counts. This is like, I have a bunch of podcasts. If you go and look through the episodes, I got a bunch of podcasts about finances. And I like to talk about finances because I believe that we need to have healthy ways to talk about money. The number one thing you have to be careful about whenever you start studying money is money attracts some weird doctrines and beliefs, and some people get into some weird stuff. When it comes to money with me, I'm just strictly black and white biblical principles, things that I read in the Bible that stuck out to me, and these principles of being good stewards, building disciplines, denying yourself. And then, again, I've read financial books. I love Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's like a book I would recommend. It completely changed the way I view money personally. It doesn't mean I agree with every line in the book. It doesn't mean that I remember every line in the book, but that book changed the way that I thought about money, and it helped me to grow and develop as I think about finances and kind of growing my own financial portfolio. And so ultimately, my point is just that you got to start educating yourself. Then you got to take action. Look, man, one of the things that I believe happens on social media and stuff too is like I get people that like always sending me a podcast clip. And don't get me wrong, if you send me podcast clips, that's cool. I'm not taking a shot at nobody. But what I'm saying is like, are you acting on it though? Because that's when it frustrates me. Like some people are just seeing you stuff and it's like, yeah, but have you done anything? Because I'm more of a like credibility, what have you done type person when it comes to behind the scenes. When I'm dealing with people behind the scenes, like, all right, cool. Like, we going to just keep talking about saving and investing, or we going to save and invest? Like, did you actually invest in something? Like, did you actually save some money? Like, I'm a person that once 2 or 3 times you keep telling me, oh yeah, I'm gonna save, I'm gonna invest. No, it's like a lot of y'all that you could, if you think that's about you, it probably is. There's a lot of people that fall in that category that I know. Every time I see you, I'm urging you to invest or save because you talking to me about some money problem. And it's like, yeah, I'm gonna do it, da. Then the next time I see you, you talking to me about a money problem. And I'm like, yeah, did you take action on the stuff that I told you last time though? Because I'm gonna be real with you. If you didn't, I really don't want to talk to you till you do something. All right, I'm sorry. I'm getting a little, the financial side of me gets a little tough love-ish. Because I get tired of people talking. You have to do. Learn, plan, do, become, be. That's how you find your purpose. That's the steps to finding your purpose. I have a whole podcast, maybe 2 or 3, outlining that. First you learn, then you plan, then you do, then you become, then you be. So yeah, I got to learn about money. That means I got to read some books. I got to listen to this podcast and others. Okay, then I got to plan. After you listen to a podcast like this, you listen to enough content, you read a Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you start reading books and you start being like, okay, cool. Now I got a plan. What's my plan? I got notebooks. I can pull up stuff from 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. And I'm like, I always get excited. I'm like, oh, okay, that was in my plan. I did that. Or that was in my plan. I didn't accomplish that one. It's okay. I have some failures and I have some successes, but I have a plan. Once I learn, I plan. I plan on doing this, right? Then you got to do. You get what I'm saying? Take action. You got to create. Like you can learn something, you could plan all day, but until you do it, like you got to take a step. Some of us, it's called paralysis by analysis in the business world, where I just keep analyzing some data. And it's like, well, you ain't never did nothing. You just analyzing too much. So we have to do something. That's when you really see, that's when you put your learning into action. Because there's one type of learning when I'm reading a book. There's another type of learning when I'm looking at my money go up and down, right? Then there's the become. So after I've learned, I've planned, I've done something, now if you continue to do it, see, this is an important part of the doing. A lot of people get to the do and stop because they never do again. All right, I learned, I planned, all right, done. Do ain't done. It's like you invested one time. You're not getting rich off $20. You're not building your financial future because you bought $20 one time 5 years ago of Amazon stock. It's like, buddy, it doesn't work like that. Your $20 might be up 300%. Congratulations, you have $60. Now imagine had you continue doing. When you do and do again and do again and do again, you enter the phase of becoming. All right, now something is changing. So I learned about money, read some books, watched some podcasts. Then I planned what I was going to do with my money. Yeah, I'm going to do this and I'm going to save this much and we going to do this and da, da, da. Then I started doing stuff. I started doing the stuff that I planned I was going to do. And then for me, my financial literacy journey started in 2012. So since then, now I'm 13 years into doing stuff. And then that comes into doing this. And then you start re-entering other parts of the purpose guide. You start learning again and you start planning new stuff and it compounds. But as you're doing things again and again, now you're becoming. What do I mean by becoming? There's a point when you're broke or you're financially stressed out and you don't have money where you're broke. Well, after you start doing, let's say you start saving $20 a week. Once you get into 150 weeks, you start becoming something different than where you started because you started off at broke. And then you start building these disciplines and you start realizing I've been doing this so long, I might not even got a raise at my job. I might have the same job. And you start realizing I'm not broke anymore. I'm becoming something else. And then what's the final phase? Is to be. You go through that process, and then at some point, you're like, no, I'm not becoming, financially free in this one area. Or let's say your plan was to save $10,000 and you learned, you planned, you started doing it, you did it again, and you start becoming. That's when you went from 0 to 1,000 and 1,000 to 2,000. You were becoming 10,000. And at some point you get to the 10 and you just have to be 10. Like, oh, wow. And then you start over and you find something else, another goal, there's always some area for us to grow, but you go through this process again, and again. It's life-changing. I developed this process off of actual things I've done. The purpose guide is what I call it. Learn, plan, do, become, be. And when people listen to my music, this is what people don't realize. It's all interconnected. I have songs to go with certain steps in the process. That means I created my music based on this lifestyle of becoming and who God called me to be and walking towards my purpose. That's what my music is. That's the trick. That's the gig is up. The secret is out. At the end of the day, I'm at these different phases in my life at all times with different things, and I'm creating music and content and podcasts around these experiences. And this is how I try to inspire other people to do the same, or motivate myself, or remind myself to keep doing it. But at the end of the day, that's what it's about. Now, here's the last part. Last thing I want to do is I do want to look at some stock. I want to look at Tesla stock in particular. I'm going to share my screen. All right, let's see how this is showing up. All right, bet. Now, I want to look at Tesla stock because when you think about this overreacting, panic, that whole vibe. Now, just today, Tesla is up almost 23% versus yesterday, up over $50. That is amazing. But what I like about this is people were panicking. Let's look at the last, there you go, year to date. So this year, the Tesla is down $107 so far. It's down 28%. And as you see, we entered, 222 on March 10th. We kept going to this 222, and we even, at some point, it was 216 a couple days ago. But it's not showing on this chart. So let's just say it was 221 right here. When this was just yesterday, people were losing their mind, overreacting, people blowing up Tesla cars, dealerships, saying it's over. Okay. Over the last 5 days, up 2%, 23% in one day, 22% in a month. What I want to show you in this chart is these different points represent different ways that the world reacts to news. right? I bet if you go back to March 18th, there's probably some news that Trump put out or something happened, some headline, something good. Then it goes up. Then you see like, oh, tariff announced, dot, 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 down here. Then something good will happen. But if you just zoom out and let's go to the last 5 years, this is why you have to be long-term and not short-term. If you're a short-term minded investor, you're going to react to all of these little points, the ups, the downs. You're going to think the downs are the end of the world. When you up here, you think it can't go no lower. Then it goes down here and you lose it. But if you just think over time, over 5 years, this is up 612%. Now, this is not financial advice. And in order for this to work, you have to have a stock like a Tesla, something good, or this could also go really bad. This is why education is important with investing. So don't take this as me telling you to buy a Tesla, especially not today when it's up 23%. Even though somebody could argue that it's still a good buy because it was 4 something in December, 421. So my point at the end of the day is just to say, do not let the ups and downs of life and all this stuff get you too caught up on the upside, too caught up on the downside. I've been investing for some years now. I don't consider myself some expert or I'm not the best in the world. I learn every day. But in my learning, what I realized is that in order to be a good investor and to make some money, you have to be composed. You cannot be a panicking person. And you can't respond too highly to euphoria, good things, and you can't respond like overreact to bad things and bad news. A lot of times the bad news is opportunities to buy, not always. In this situation, I felt that was the case. I made posts on Facebook talking about it, Facebook, talking about it. But ultimately to me, I mean, some news can happen tomorrow and this stuff could go back down again. So I'm not even thinking like, I don't know. What I do believe is I've learned enough about investing. I've read enough books, autobiographies about successful people. Most wealthy people made their wealth investing in something. Now, you can look at investing different ways. Investing in a business, investing in a stock, investing in crypto. It's something that's slipping my mind. I don't know why I had another example. I'm sorry. It just literally left my mind. But my point is, investing is a huge part of wealth generation and success. And when I think about investing, the easy way I see it is you see something, you've studied it, and you have conviction behind it. This is important. Not just you heard somebody else talk about it and you don't know what it is. You've studied and educated yourself and you have some conviction. And you take part in the risk and put in money, time, energy, or effort, invest. And so for that, you become a part of the reward. So you get rewarded equity or stocks or royalties or something, right? And you go on this up and down journey with this in this situation that you've invested in. And if it works out because you came in early and you were in the good times and the bad times, you get the biggest payout at the end. That's how it works. Real estate, that was the other one. I couldn't think of it. People invest in real estate. That's generated the most wealthy people, I believe, at least in America. But my point is, in every scenario when I'm studying wealth, there's somebody that saw something while it was down, and that's when they committed to it, and they benefited from the upside typically years later. So a couple of aspects of investing is, hey, you got to find things when they're down, not when they're up. Don't wait till something is exploding and then jump on a boat because it's doing well. If that was how you made wealth, then any of us could do it. But you got to believe in people or things or businesses before everybody else sees them. Remember, we talking about being developed in the dark. Part of this being developed in the dark is seeing potential when other people don't. Not waiting until everybody else agrees that something is good to believe it's good. That takes a lot of effort and education, though, and you can't just do that overnight or you're going to lose a lot of money. But my point is, if you just wait over time when you find something good and allow it to develop, allow it to cook, a lot of times you're going to see a huge upside. But if you just in one day, out next day, you panic here, like, don't do that. That's why we always say don't invest money you can't lose. You can't afford to lose. So let's say if you have a plan, I'm going to say this and get out of here. This is just an idea for a plan. You get some money. And I think I said this on the last podcast, but you need to start thinking about, how do I slice my pie, right? Meaning, if I get $1,000, what portion of that goes towards some bills? What portion of that goes towards some charity? What portion of that goes towards savings and investments? And I'm a believer that you need to slice up all of your money. The problem with some of us is we get money and it's spent on one thing before we even think about it. Your money should not just be a lump sum like, oh, I want a new computer and I get a $2,000 check and just spend it on a computer and I don't have no other money, nothing saved up, nothing. Now I just took my whole check and bought a computer. No, you need to wait till you can afford the computer. Because when you get the $2,000, you need to slice it. You need to say, okay, what's important to me? Okay, I'm giving something to my church. What's important to me? Okay, I'm putting 100, what did I say? How much money you got? 2,000? I'm putting $300 in savings. Okay, I'm going to invest $200. That's 500 right there. I got 1,500. Maybe there's a $500 bill. Maybe I do want to put $300 up to save for my computer. Whatever it is, this idea of when people get lump sum money like tax season and they just go spend it crazy, like, yeah, you just create more stress for yourself. So hopefully that helps, man. Hopefully you enjoyed this show. If you do, please like, share, subscribe, all those good things. Thank you so much for watching episode 234, Developed in the Dark. And hopefully, people, I will be back for more podcasts in the near future and not have to wait for forever to do another one. Forever. Thank